Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Azoic Education. I guess I haven't introduced myself. I'm Sarah. I'm head of social media and marketing partnerships here at Azoic. I'm really excited for today's episode because I'm joined by a very special guest, a YouTuber and affiliate marketing coach, Leon Angus. Welcome, Leon. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Better late than never, as I always
Better
say.
late than never.
But
right.
yeah, hello everyone. Leon Angus here.
Perfect. Cool. So before we get started, I do want to add, if anybody has any questions throughout the webinar, you can leave them in the Q&A or in the chat, and I will be monitoring those. So if anything comes up, I can bring it to Leon's attention, or we can do some question and answer at the end. Both work. So yeah, are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Perfect. So my first question for you is just, can you share with us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Definitely. So I roughly got started around 2 years ago now, just over 2 years, and initially got into online marketing with paid advertising and had a few ups and downs with that, and decided to go for something that had like a bit more of a low entry point, lower entry point. So that's when it led me on to looking at SEO. And at the time, I never really understood how much you could potentially make with blogs and SEO and so on and so forth. So that really opened my eyes when I came across a few people that were making quite a substantial amount of money. Mm-hmm. And then I just got stuck in. Like, I decided to pick a niche and just start building out a site. And ever since then, I've got 4 sites now. My highest site traffic wise at like 30,000 visitors per month, and just continuing to build and share that on my YouTube channel as well.
And how long have you been doing this, like from very beginning till now?
Yeah, so specifically with SEO and niche website building, I would say 1.5 years. So not that long, like not too long. Yeah.
Wow, and you've been this successful already, and it's only been, 1.5 years. Do you continue? Do you want to stay on this path, for as long as you can see in the future, or do you think this is just kind of like a temporary thing for you?
No, definitely is something I want to do in the coming future. My ideal plan is to basically have like a portfolio of websites, and then every so often sell off a website to get a cash lump sum and then reinvest that into building more sites, because I actually enjoy building them.
Nice. Okay, so jumping into the next question, what are some common SEO or site building mistakes that people often make, or maybe that you've made in the past?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I find is that people sometimes go into the wrong niches with the wrong approach. So highly competitive niches, to be precise. And what I find is that, like, if you are going into something of high level competition, then you need to be prepared to do the right kind of strategies, or implement the right types of strategies to actually compete at that level. So I find that a lot of people will go into something like very broad, say, for example, health or wealth or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're competing with very big sites out there. Whereas I find that with niche site marketing, you need to kind of find that gap in the market or a crack within the internet and then fill that. So that also makes a difference on the type of, strategy that you implement in regards to your keyword research and content strategy as well. Another thing is also not using searchable titles, like searchable keywords in the permalink or title or SEO meta titles. So I find a lot of people, when I'm reviewing their websites, sometimes are writing content which is great, but they're not actually going and doing the research phase before writing the content. And ultimately, in order for someone to find you when you're starting out, especially, you need to be making that content on the back of a search query within Google's search engine, so that's one of the other things that I really see. Next thing is bad website optimization. So some people don't really understand like keyword density or, outbound links, anchor text, all of these kind of things. And sometimes, people are not using outbound links and things like that because they think that they're leaking out link juice on their site and all these different things. So where it actually does benefit your site to link out to relevant authoritative pages, because it also provides a better experience to your readers, and the search engines actually take that into consideration. Another thing is linking to bad products. This is something that I see quite a lot.
Mhm.
So especially if people are doing something to do with like Amazon associates, they will link to products that don't have like good reviews. So they will get the click, but then they don't understand why they don't get the sale. The conversion doesn't happen on the other end. So you always need to kind of fact check the products, make sure that they got good landing pages and that they're something that you would buy from. That's the best kind of way that I simplify it. It's just if you would buy from it, then it's
Yeah.
probably a good thing for your readers. But if you won't, then obviously it's probably not good enough for your readers. And last thing I would say is not starting with the end in mind. So what I mean by
Oh,
that is how they're going to monetize the site.
mhm.
So depending on how you're going to monetize a website will depend on your strategy. For example, if you're going to be monetizing very heavily, like with info products and
Mhm.
ads, then you might go and use a strategy of finding underserved keywords, or you might be building up like an informational type site. Whereas if you're going to be monetizing very heavily with affiliate, then that's going to determine your strategy, because you're not going to be able to use a method of really, I would say, finding underserved keywords. You might go into more competitive keywords, commercial
Yeah.
type keywords. So say, for example, like best buys, reviews, those kind of things. That would be like maybe 80% focus of your site. And then you would maybe be using like backlinks and things like that, you know? So
Mhm.
depending on your kind of ultimate way that you're trying to, your goal will
Yeah.
depend on how you should start it. And these are things where I see that people take off on the wrong track.
Amazing. So,
Mm.
can you walk us through how you decide what types of content to create, and then maybe give us a few examples of that in practice or the process in which you go through?
Definitely. So, as I said earlier in the last point, depending on the way that you intend to monetize the site will depend on the types of keywords you pick. Then the types of keywords that you choose is going to depend on the types of content that you create, because ultimately you need to have the right formats for different types of keywords. Yeah. So I'll
Mhm.
show you an example here of a site that I'm currently building at the minute. I'm just going to share my screen here. So let's just actually take a look here. Let's see. Okay, so can you see the screen here?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a site I'm currently building, which is a motorbike site. So I intend to monetize this quite heavily with ads, like once I build this site up. Yeah, so what you can see here is I'm actually targeting like underserved keywords. And this is a perfect example of if you're trying to build something that you might monetize with like info products, you might monetize it with ads, you might collect emails and remarket to people there or something like that. But I wouldn't really use this strategy of if I was building like a very affiliate based website. So this is very much like more focused on good information. So the way I build the content around these keywords is if I'm doing like an informational keyword that's like a question based keyword, then I usually follow a very simple structure. So because of Google snippets and NLP, which is natural language processing, what's taken into consideration is how you answer queries within your article to show up and potentially steal a snippet position. So when I actually take a look at something like this, the first thing I'm doing in my introductions for a piece of content like this is I'm coming in and maybe sometimes trying to write something that resonates with the reader, but I'm also trying to let them know that they're in the right place. And this is generic across the board for my content, to be honest. And then I'm also going to tell them what they intend to learn by actually reading through the article, because ultimately they need to know what they're going to leave with that they don't have
Mhm.
now. Yeah. So if they actually came in and they typed in, can motorbike tires be repaired with a puncture kit? Well, like within this first part, I'm going to tell them that that's what they're going to find out. Then in the second paragraph, I optimize this for snippets. So I give them a very direct answer. Yeah. So this is summarizing it for the people who are like skim and skimpers. You know, they just come through, they want to get the answer. I've got a clear H2 subheading. I break down all of my content with one H1 at the top, and then all subtopics are H2s. And any subtopics of a H2 category, a H2 section here will become a H3. And that's just good website page structure. I'm also using relevant outbound links, maybe 2 or 3 per 2,000 words. And that's just to any kind of piece of content that's authoritative and can better help the reader understand the topic that you're trying to teach them, or, you know, that they're trying to learn. And then I give them the direct answer here. And then after that, throughout the rest of the informational piece of content, I'm then elaborating on it. So it's essentially like the analogy that I make of if you go to like a supermarket and you're potentially going to get some paint to paint a wall at home, and you say, okay, well, I'm gonna, I'm looking for some white paint, and they're like, aisle 7. That's quite helpful and it's great. But then the difference is if they actually ask you and say, okay, like, what wall are you painting? Where is it in the house? And they're like, oh, I don't know, it's the garage, and so they say, okay, well, this is the actual selection we have for that, for those materials, because does it rain a lot in where you're based and whatever else, so they can then better tailor the products around them to suit their needs. So some people are coming in for direct information. You've given them that within this first section. And then throughout the rest, for the people who want to get the in-depth information, they then get that by actually reading on. And the general format of this is just basically following a good introduction, very short, like maybe 200 words or something, and then coming in with the direct answer and then elaborating on it throughout the rest of the article. For summaries, I always try and cover things that I have educated on within the article. So for those people that actually come and skim through the article and get to the conclusion, they might potentially look at this and think, okay, let me go back and read it, because there's a few bits of vital information here that I could probably benefit from. FAQs, I use this as a section to potentially answer some queries that you might have not been able to actually put within your article. It might have not made sense. It's also a great place to capture some keywords or phrases that have some search volume that you may have not potentially used within the article. Okay, so that's just for a question-based keyword. The way I source those keywords are by going to usually a site like, I source my keywords from using a tool called keysearch.co. That's one of the tools that I actually use. Someone just asked in the chat what tools I use. This is a very cheap tool and very beginner friendly. You don't really have to use tools, to be honest. I was just on a call with Morton recently, and he was talking about and kind of really, he was explaining that it's more about topics opposed to keywords. Because ultimately, if you take one page, say for example, if we take, like, I don't know, let's just type in like something random here. If we actually type in like ClickFunnels review or something like that, we're just going to take the first page that pops up, and hopefully it's got some good traffic behind it. But what we're going to do is, if I actually do a competitive analysis on this page and then I put in the specific URL, usually what we'll find is that one page is ranking for multiple different keywords. And that's because Google's smart enough. So as we can see here, this one URL is ranking for 54 search queries, but they never optimized for all of them. They never actively tried to, manually maybe put them in and stuff them. But it's because Google's smart enough to understand that it's relevant to all of those topics as well. So ultimately, if you cover the topic, then you're on the right track. Okay. So the other types of articles that you have is like a buyer intent piece of content. So on this site, I don't really think it's a good example because I think they're all informational. So I use 10 Beast a lot, like to give an example of this. So this is more like for a product focused type website. And this is the general kind of flow that I go through with my buyer intent content. Even if I'm not emulating this site, I'm generally following this kind of format. So when you're doing like a best buy, it's a comparison keyword. So that's number one. So your layout needs to warrant the type of content like that people are looking for this type of keyword. So if I'm looking for this, I'm looking for what is the best one. So I want to know like your top recommendation, but then I also want to see it compared to other products, because ultimately, if I was more further along in the buying cycle, then I might be looking at the exact product review. So that might have been the keyword that I typed in, opposed to just looking for a best buy. So always remembering that best buy keywords are comparisons, and you need to have a general layout that's also going to, really benefit you in the search engines. So that's going to determine the way you create your content. And what the best way to actually see this is if we zoom out, then we can see that they come in with like an introduction, then they give you that top recommendations here. So for the people that again are in a hurry, they can get off on the list and then go off to the relevant content. And then a few things to consider, because usually people who are reading on are a bit more looking for more in-depth information, which is why they got past this part here. So then when they get down here, they're going to be, taken through. If it's like a, say for example, like some kind of product that involves materials, then you might say things to consider: how robust is it, how long is it going to last, you know,
Hmm.
what is it
Yeah.
suited for, all of these different things. Because what you want to do is clear up any potential doubt so someone can make an easy decision when they come down to this section here. You know, so when they get into here, they can clearly identify, oh, well, this one's like unique flying experience. So just to actually explain the content layout here: nice, warm and friendly introduction, using a featured image at some point within that area to actually confirm to them that they're in the right place, because ultimately people are going to bounce off if they can't get that information within like 3 seconds max. You've got
Hmm.
like 3 seconds to confirm that. Then after, we're going into taking them into the content and what we're going to aim to teach them. So look, I will take you through a list of top 10 drones. Like, so it's clearly telling them what they aim to get. Then few things to consider, like, you know, table there, and then going into these reviews. So these are like, you know, going over the pros and cons. I always keep them like the good stuff and the bad stuff. I don't want to do like anything like benefits or features. I'm more looking for the good and the bad, because people just want to know, like, you know, is it comfortable to use, or how long does it last for, or something like that. I don't know, just these basic things. And then a quick summary, and then a buy now button I usually put down here. Or yeah, I mean, you can use buttons on these kind of articles because they're very again buyer intent focused, but you wouldn't use it on something like, you know, someone's looking on a how-to or something. You wouldn't have a button saying to buy something. You'd use like a contextual link. Sorry. Okay, so that's that. And then we have exact product reviews. So if we actually type in like a product that I was promoting, I'm not sure, that let's have a look at this site. So this site here, so say for example, this is a product review. So this is when someone has already defined that they've gone through the cycle of looking at the best ones, then they've narrowed it down to this product, you know, but they're on the tipping edge of making the purchase, but they just want someone to be almost relatable that they can resonate with, to give them that last confirmation. So this kind of article, I would usually come in with telling them, you know, that I'm going to be reviewing the product, what the product is, so confirming that they're in the right place, and then introducing my persona or character. This is actually my partner here, so that's her. So it's a real person. But so like, I'm going to explain to them of what I'm going to be taking them through, and get them to know the character first in this type of article. But it depends on what kind of product you're promoting. This is a clickbank product. If you're doing it for like an Amazon, you might not make that effort, because it's a lot easier to do that without, you know, having the who am I section.
Hmm.
Then you're going to take them through what the product is, you know, how can it help them? Like, how does it benefit? Who is it for? All of these kind of general things. And you're going to break that down into subsections. I always recommend, if you're doing a product review like this, then try and buy the product, you know, because that way you can share information that people won't get from anywhere else on the internet. So that's straight away going to give you an edge over anyone else. I'm usually using contextual links throughout the article, and then I'll have like a kind of like a schema markup box at the bottom that I use. And it also like just a nice friendly kind of call to action, like try it yourself, you know. So that's the general kind of approach I take on an article like that, and a few testimonials, like what other people have to say, if you can get that from the affiliate vendor. So that, I hope, kind of explains a little bit about how I would go about creating different types of content. Yeah.
All right. It looks like we have a question in the chat here.
Yeah.
Do you recommend one main site and having subsites versus a separate site for each niche?
I would recommend having a separate site for each niche, because you want to build up that topical relevancy with Google. So ultimately, you don't want to confuse search engines in any way. So I would definitely keep each website as its own entity.
All right. So jumping into my next question, I wanted to ask you about your YouTube channel. So
Yeah.
obviously you have a growing YouTube channel, Leon Angus.
Mm-hmm.
What things have you learned about growing on that medium that you could share as advice to somebody listening?
Well, one of the main things, I'm just going to stop this share as well because I've got some notes
Yeah,
here.
no worries.
I want to look a bit more professional than I am. I'm checking. So everyone that knows me and watches me knows I'm just genuine. I just keep it, you know, just completely genuine. But anyway, so one of the things is I would say focus on good audio in your videos if you're going to create videos. Definitely, because even if you don't have the best of quality in regards to the video, having good audio is very important for people to listen to you, because ultimately, you know, some people are not even going to watch the video unless it's a tutorial or something. But having that clear audio. Another thing is focus on searchable keywords.
Mhm.
So a lot of people create content on YouTube when they're starting out, and one of the areas where they really go wrong is they feel that like people are going to just tune into their life and they're going to be so interested about them, when ultimately at the beginning you have to find a way of serving those people, and then, you know, in return they'll obviously follow you based on the information that you're giving. And
Mhm.
the best way to look at it is when you go and follow someone new. You don't really follow someone who's vlogging, like who's just starting out. It's more like they established themselves. And vlogging is like, it's a very long-term kind of thing, you know? So I find that if you're trying to get quick traction, then make it around, again, topics that are serving people's questions and queries, you know? So the way I actually find that out is just by using the search tab and autocomplete and just finding different long tail keywords. And to
Mhm.
define long tails, like four words or more within the
Mhm.
phrase. And just making it super specific, because if it's like how to rank a website, you might say, okay, then how to rank a niche website with SEO or something like that. But I use a general method where I use the autocomplete and go through like A, B, C, D and see what
Mhm.
different topics come up. One of the other ways that I actually do this as well, I'm going to share my screen again, is I'll take people over. So one of the other ways is I go to people's channels that are relatively similar size to mine, and then I reverse engineer their 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 videos, their top performing videos. So I find the popular topics, because one, if they've shown up for it with a very kind of low overall subscriber rate, then it says that you can probably do the same. And it also identifies the most popular topics to kind of create content around, like what people want to see. But it
Mhm.
has to be relevant to your niche and your type of content that you push out. So say, for example, my channel's 2,700 or something. So if I was going to go to like a channel, I mean, this is a bit big. I might go to one like 3,000-4,000 or whatever. Sometimes you can find them by typing in something related to your niche. So you could go like how to write content for an Amazon affiliate website. Yeah. So I'll probably be showing up somewhere here anyway. And then I use this tool called vidIQ. And what that does is a Google extension tool, which many people in the chat may be familiar with. But ultimately what this does is it reveals the kind of user, the data. Channel's 19,000. It's not huge. I could probably compete with some of the terms on here. And what I would do is go into his channel and then click videos, and then I would sort them by most popular topics. And what this does is it shows me topics that have performed well in comparison to the rest of his content. So when I'm here, I'm going to know this one's a bit dated. I'm going to be looking for something maybe within the last 2 years, ideally. I mean, if it's like 5 years, it could have accumulated views just because it's been on the internet for so long, you know? So for this, I would look within maybe sometimes pushing it 3 years if I think it's still relevant. And I'm going to look at the topics, you know, because these topics are then going to give me an incentive to what types of keywords I then need to rank for, you know. So I would still come back to this process. This is just a kind of sourcing process to get the popular topics that I
Mhm.
can potentially rank for and show up. And then ultimately, the last thing I'm going to do is type that keyword into the actual or try and bring up like multiple keywords that are related to it. So just say it's like how to write content Amazon. I might go how to write content Amazon B or something like that. You can see something just came up. So if we actually say how to write content for blog you know, or how to write content for blog, how to write good content for blog, how to write unique content for blog. So I'm usually focusing on these searchable titles. And the reason why is because if you're ranking a video today and it continues to get search traffic, it snowballs and compounds. So what happens with my channel is it consistently grows because I'm ranking for different videos. So as we saw on that how to write content for affiliate website, this video, this is getting searched every month. I'm not focused too much on search volume. Like, you know, you usually, if you found it from a most popular video, you know it has some volume behind it. But this video continues to get views because it's ranking. So more people are coming in and more people are actually subscribing, providing that your content is well researched and helpful and useful. You know, so make actionable content. That's one thing I would say, is that make sure your videos are actionable. And if I actually take a look at over here, one of the things that I think I do that's quite different to a lot of other YouTubers within the space is I create a lot of helpful templates. So I share templates. So you see what I was trying to explain in regards to the buyer intent content strategy that I use. You can see that I've actually gone and created like this PDF here, and it has a complete breakdown of the whole structure, like of everything, you know. So everything I just explained of how I do the H2s and making it the best at something and going through all of it, like how I would write the review, I'll take you through the complete A to Z here in that. But because I share that inside of my description box, it obviously gives that additional value to a lot of people. One of the other things is always reply to comments. Every single comment, every single person is important. So as you can see on any of my videos, I'm replying to all the comments, you know. So a lot of people that come into my content sometimes are saying, you know, I saw your stuff and I thought you were good, but then I saw you were replying to people and that just really enticed me to go and follow you because I knew that you were real, you know. So I find that just having that human connection with a lot of people, which is quite difficult to do in digital format, but the more you can actually amplify that, then the more people are gonna, you know, like your character, and just be yourself, honestly. Because I think, you know, with YouTube, it's a great way for you to do it as something creative from the comfort of your home. So I think just having that personal touch on things, even if you're a very astronomically big YouTuber to people who are very small, like it just really benefits the viewers.
All right. So looks like we can jump into a few question and answers. We have a few here. If you have any questions you'd like to be answered, you can send them in right now. Again, if you want to put them in the chat or put them in the Q&A. I'll start here. I have one in the Q&A. What is the plugin to enter the meta tags for keyword search? And is this free to add?
Yeah, for Meta, you can use any kind of plugin like Yoast SEO, All-in-One SEO, any of those, because all Meta is the actual what's displayed in the index. You know, so if we actually type, oh, sorry, I thought I was sharing. Am I sharing my screen? I'm not.
You unshared, but you can share again.
Yeah, okay, so I'm just going to show this. So if I actually go back down to here. So yeah, this is something I'm typing in here, yeah, just randomly. So this is just meta title, but ultimately for SEO, what I found is that meta description, as far as I know, doesn't have a direct ranking factor in regards to search engines, but it's almost indirect because your click-through rate is measured. So you don't need to actually optimize this with the exact phrase of your keyword that you're trying to target. But I would highly recommend that you front load keywords on your meta titles. And you can also, like, one of the things I'm testing out at the moment is using secondary keywords. So if you got, like, say, for example, how to find cPanel username SiteGround or something, you might also put like how to find cPanel username and then and password or something. So you might actually enter like and use the word password in the second part of the title, because that will also then give you that higher potential for showing up for how to find cPanel username and also for the password as well, so you can target multiple keywords at once. For the description part, I usually just have the keywords in there incorporated in some natural way. The other thing is you want to make your titles and descriptions very natural, because people just want to see something, that they almost want to see like a mirror of what they typed in. Because you have the thing when you kind of, your general practice when you type something in and go through to Meta is you type it in and then you're almost looking for the thing that exactly kind of states what the question is in your head. So like when you're just Googling something, so you just come down, how to find cPanel username. And then if I was typing for SiteGround, all I'm looking for is something that cPanel SiteGround. So look, straight away, this is going to be the first one that I'm going to click. I probably wouldn't even, maybe I'd click that one, but yeah, I probably would have skipped past that, but they're taking the snippet and also the first position. But if we actually click that, sometimes it brings up the snippet. You see this is a good example. I wanted this to pop up. So when I was saying optimizing your first part of content for snippet, you can see that, I don't know whether this is like some kind of glitch on my computer or whether it's Google doing it, but it's only been showing up the last couple of days. But this is the snippet. So when I click, that's going to disappear, but it's showing you what it's actually taken from this article for the snippet. So coming back to what I was talking about earlier, this is like snippet optimization, so you can see, and it needs to be in NLP format. So what that means is that's a way of Google's algorithm interpreting human language. So what we need to do as publishers is directly answer it as if you were answering a question that someone just asked. So even though this article is how to provide access to my developer, or whatever it is, or whatever it may be for SiteGround or whatever, you want to give it like specifics and just give them the direct answer as if someone just asked you, and you directly answer it in a few sentences, and you can see obviously that shows up. If we click that, it disappears, but that's the same part of this that's actually taken into this section. I went all the way off onto that from Meta.
Okay, so hopping back over to the chat, I have another question here. When you search for keywords in your articles, what is the search volume number or value that you choose?
Okay, so search volume is a bit of a gray area in regards to tools, because no tool is going to give you the exact volume of a keyword. Yeah, that's because there's different trends, there's different things happening, and data is consistently changing every single day. So user behavior changes. So because of that, you're generally looking for things that potentially are searchable. And the way I see it is, it depends on your strategy. If you're going to take an informational type of approach for a website, then I wouldn't even care if it's a 0 search volume, but I wouldn't make that like the main focus, like 80% of my keyword research strategy, like thinking that I'm finding underserved keywords. My main thing is analyzing the competition, because the volume, you're going to show up for multiple different keywords within the for that topic, so, and the way I see websites and content with anything, it doesn't matter whether it's YouTube or a website, is it's all a test, and the ultimate test is the data that you collect. So what you need to do is push that content out, so if I actually come here and I see, oh, well, this has like 0 search volume, I might think, is it a question that people are really going to ask? Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll write it. So that's it. I don't really overthink that. But if you want to go for like, exact metrics, and you're that kind of data-driven person, then it's going to depend on the actual. It's going to depend on the type of content that you're going to create, like, or what topic you're going to cover. And then if I'm looking for like volume, I would class low volume as like something like 50 searches, 150 searches. You're probably going to find around a long tail keyword, like a lower competition level around that. I'm mainly paying attention to the domain authority of the sites that are showing up in the top 10. And I'm also looking at, like, because no matter whether I source it from here and I find it through like this suggested section or whatever, or I'm sourcing it from Answer the Public or something like that, the last thing I always do is come back to Google, just a simple thing, and see what's showing up. Because sometimes what you'll find is there are big authoritative websites showing up, but they're not actually on point. They're not answering the exact query. They're just showing up because Google doesn't have a piece of content to show up specifically for that query. So they'll obviously round up the next best thing, yeah, because that's the best thing they can serve to you as the searcher, you know. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for metrics, keep it 100 searches and above to give you an exact answer.
All
And I would
right.
class that as low search volume. Medium, maybe like 500 plus, you know, 500 to like 1,500 or something. High volume, anything above 3,000 searches a month.
All right, so it looks like we have two more questions here, and then I think we're going to be running out of time. But
Yeah.
so that first one is, which platform do you use to measure your metrics, like views per month? Google Analytics, cPanel, etc.
Yeah, so Google Analytics is the thing that I was using, and then obviously the site that I've monetized with Ezoic Ads, I'm now using your big data analytics. But yeah, just Google Analytics, just basically going through on the basics and you know, just seeing what's up. That's it. And what was the other question? Sorry.
So the next question is, would you recommend to close the comment section to prevent spam comments? And I think this might be referring to YouTube, your YouTube comments.
Yeah.
It might be referring to articles as well.
Okay, if it's regarding YouTube, YouTube actually has like an automatic function that filters those comments out. So it puts them into sections where it would need to be moderated, you know, so it won't automatically get approved. So if it picks up on certain words that have been seen as spam across YouTube, it will automatically, and one of the key things is if someone's using like a bit.ly link or something like that, you know, it will pick up and it will first put it to me so I can go in and manually approve it or disapprove it. In regards to a website, I always base this on two things. So it depends on if you're going to do an affiliate website and you're focused around like creating a lot of buyer intent content, you know, so your ratio of content, buyer intent versus informational might be like 80% reviews and best buys and all of that kind of thing. And then like 20% you're focused on informational. That's beneficial for a site that's a review type website because you're giving Google that topical relevancy and saying, you know, hey, show me up for these kind of, I want to be the product guy and show up for the reviews, you know? Whereas if you're more informational focused, you might flip that and go 80% informational and 20% buyer intent. So in that scenario will depend on whether you would use the comment section, because if people are coming onto your site purely to click a link and get off onto an affiliate product, then you're not really trying to establish like a big brand recognition. So you don't really need to interact with those people. Where I find that comment sections are most helpful is if you have like a personal blog, you know, like a personal website. Like for example, I've got a site which is, you know, only 2 pages or something, my Leon Angus site, but I mainly use it for people to book coaching calls and stuff. But on this kind of website, I'm going to enable the comments because I care about, you know, my subscribers that come and read this or people that come across my content. So I'm actually doing like a course review here, a course that's quite popular. And I've written my experience with it. And then I've actually got like my own YouTube video within it. That's another thing I'll say within content is always use lots of media, you know, break up the content, no more than 2 lines and lots of media. So like lots of images and video, but make sure that you're getting your page to still load under like 3 seconds. You know, 2 seconds is great. 3 seconds is good. And yeah, for a site like this, I'd enable it. But if you have an affiliate focused site, then no, you don't need your comment section. There's no need. And again, websites filter spam in that, you know, if there's any spam detected, you could set all your comments to moderate. So you might have to moderate them manually, or, you know, WordPress picks up on it as well.
All right, so it looks like that is all of the questions that we have in the chat and the Q&A. Thank you to everybody who joined, and thank you to everyone who sent in questions. Leon, thank you so much for being a guest on our Ezoic Education series.